Hi, this is Matt with AppliancePartsPros.com. Today we'll be showing you how to repair your appliance. Remember, anytime you work on an appliance, make sure it's unplugged or the circuit breakers are off so there's no chance of electrocution. In this video we're going to show you how to change out the Samsung Refrigerator Defrost Thermostat. It's going to be a very easy repair and it'll only take a few minutes to show you how to do it. If you already have one of these, great. If not, you can click on the link below or get it at AppliancePartsPros.com. When you open up the package, you're going to get the new Defrost Thermostat. The defrost thermostat is used in both the fresh food and the freezer section. It's part of the defrost system. The main reason you'd be changing it out is if it's failed and the evaporator is icing up, causing that section to be warm. Since this part is used in both the fresh food and the freezer section, we're going to show you how to change it in both sides. If you're changing out the fresh food section, we have to open up both refrigerator doors. Now the way both doors open, we're going to take out these two drawers and the upper shelves. To get the drawers out, you just have to pull out till they stop, then lift up on the front a little bit and pull them out the rest of the way. Once you have them out, you can set them aside. Now that we have the drawers out, we're going to take out the center divider. There's a little locking tab on each side that we have to press in, and you can pull the divider out. Once you have it off, you can pull it out and set it aside. To get the shelf out, we're just going to lift up on the front a little bit, and you can pull it forward. Once you have it free, you can pull it out and set it aside. The three upper shelves all come out the same way. We're just going to lift up on the front, and then lift up a little bit, and then pull them out. Once you have them out, you can set them aside. The small shelf, you just have to lift it out of the way. Now that we have all the shelves out, we have to remove the back panel. There's 4 screws that hold it on. There's one located behind this cover right here that we have to take off. So we're going to use a small flathead screwdriver to carefully get in here and release the tab. Once you have it free, you can pull the cover off, set it aside. Now we can use the Phillips screwdriver and remove the 4 screws. Now that we have those screws off, we can take the back panel off. As you're pulling it off, you want to be careful. There's 2 wiring harnesses up here that we have to disconnect once we get some room. And we can reach back in there and unplug them. Once you have the panel free, we can reach up and disconnect the wire harnesses. To disconnect the wiring harnesses, each one has a locking tab. All you have to do is press the locking tab so you can pull the wire harness off. Once you have them both free, you can pull the assembly out of the refrigerator. Now that we have the back panel off, we're going to take a wire cutters and cut the zip tie that holds all these wires together. Once you have it cut, you can pull the zip tie out, and then we can use the small flathead screwdriver to reach in and pop the defrost thermostat off the evaporator. Once you have the defrost thermostat off the evaporator, we can reach in and pull it out. Once you have it free, we're going to reach up and take this little junction box cover off. Just have to press in on the tab and pull it out. After you have the cover off, we're going to bring the new one in and show you these two. We have the older version of this system where the defrost thermostat is wired over into the heater and then up to this middle spot on this 3-spot wiring harness plug. If you have the newer style that's plugged in directly up here, all you have to do is pull out this wiring harness and swap this end out. You don't have to do all this splicing. If you have the older style like we do, we're going to have to cut the wire and splice in the new defrost thermostat. Once you figure out what style you have, if you have the older one like us, we're going to have to cut the defrost thermostat out. So you just want to take the wire cutters and cut the wires right about this area on both sides. Once you have it cut off, you can pull it out of the refrigerator. Here's the old defrost thermostat next to the new one. If you already have one of these, great. If not, you can get it at appliancepartspros.com. As you can see, they redesigned it, so we're going to have to make it work with our older design. To make the new one work, we're going to use our wire cutters and cut the wire off. We're going to cut it off a little bit longer than the old one, just so we have a little extra. Once you have the wires cut off, we're going to pull this sleeve off. And like the old one was insulated, we still want the new one to be insulated. So we're going to just kind of cut this back a little bit so it's still on there, but we have room to splice the new connectors on. Once you have the sleeve back on, we're going to grab the wire strippers and strip off the wires so we can put the butt connectors on. Once you have the butt connectors crimped down, we can put the new defrost thermostat into the refrigerator. Before we wire in the defrost thermostat, we have to get the wires ready on the inside. This one has the sleeve attached right here, so if you can, just push this up a little bit so you can get the wire out. If you can't do this, then you'll have to cut it just like the other side. On this side, we're just going to cut off a little bit of that clear plastic insulation so we can strip the wire. Once you have it cleared away from there, we can grab the wire stripper, strip off a little bit. Once you have the wire stripped off, we're going to put some heat shrink tubing on it so we can protect it once it's all crimped together. We're going to put one side on there and then one on our defrost thermostat because this tag is in the way. Once you have everything on, we can crimp it together. Doesn't matter which wire goes where. One goes up to the wire harness connector and the other one goes over to the heater. Once you have it crimped together, we can slide the heat shrink tubing around everything. Once you have it in place, we can grab the heat gun and heat it up so the shrink tube shrinks down. Now that we have the heat shrink on, we can grab the defrost thermostat and snap it onto the evaporator. There's two sets of holes on ours, and ours was snapped into the lower one. So make sure you snap into the same one that yours was on. Once you have it snapped into place, we can grab a zip tie and bundle the wires together. We're just going to grab all the wires and wrap the zip tie around them and hold them together. Once you have the zip tie tightened down, we can take the wire cutters, cut off the excess. And then if you had the metal cover off the wire harness connector, you can just snap that back in. Once you have it back in place, we can put the back panel on. To To put the back panel on, we're just going to lift it up into place. And then we have to reach behind it and reconnect the wire harnesses. We have the one that goes to the temperature sensor, that goes on the top. And the one that goes to the fan goes on the bottom. Once you have them both hooked up, you can lift the back panel up into place. Once you have the back panel in place, we can use a Phillips screwdriver to put the screws back in. Once you have these 3 screws in, we can put in the upper one. Now that we have the screws in, we can snap the cover on. All you have to do is line it up, push it into place. Once you have it in, we can put all the shelving back in. To put these upper shelves back in, they all go in the same way. We're just going to set the top hooks on first and lower it down. Once you have the upper one on, you can lower this little side shelf. Now we can put the crisper cover in. To put it in, we're just going to set it down onto the rails, and then we're going to hold the front up a little bit, then push it back so the shelf goes underneath the rails. You can set the front down. To put the sport in, all you have to do is line it up and push it in. You want to make sure it snaps in. Once you have it in place, we can put the drawers in. When you put the drawers in, you want to make sure the wider one goes on the left. And all you have to do is put them in the same way you took them out. Lift up on the front a little bit. Push them in, and drop the front down. Push it the rest of the way in. Now that we've shown you how to do it in the refrigerator, we'll show you how to do it in the freezer. To get to the part, all you have to do is open up the freezer door. Once you have the door open, we have to take the drawer out. So we're just going to pull it out a little bit, and you want to make sure that the rails on each side are pushed all the way up like this. And then we can lift up on the drawer and pull it out. Now that we have the drawer out, we're going to take the basket out. In order to make it easier to get that out, we're going to open up the refrigerator doors for a second. And then we can lift the basket out. You want to lift the back up first, and then slide it towards the back a little bit. Once you have it free, you can lift it out and set it aside. Once we have the basket out, we're going to close the refrigerator doors again. And then we can take the door off the freezer. We can see this bracket that has 2 bolts that hold the door onto the rails. We're going to use a 10mm socket with a ratchet to take them out. Now that we have these out, we can go to the ones on the other side. Now we can lift the door off the brackets. If it's stuck, you can use your hand to press down on the rail while you break it free. And then we can carefully lift the door up, pull it off. Once you have it off, you can set it aside. Now that we have the door out of the way, we have to take this connecting rod off. So we're just going to push it all the way over to the right and flex a little bit so it comes out of the left wheel. Once you have it out of that, we can pull it out of the right one and pull it off and set it aside. Once you have the connecting rod out, we can push the rails in. Then we can take out the ice maker. To get it out, the first thing we're going to do is remove this cover. It's just snapped on, so just squeeze it a little bit and pop it off. Once you have the cover off, we're going to use a Phillips screwdriver to take out these 2 screws that hold it up. Once you have the screws out, we're going to reach in and pull forward on the ice maker so it releases from the tabs. So we can drop it down and carefully reach in and disconnect the wire harness. There's a locking tab on it. Just have to press it to release it. Once you have it released, you can pull the ice maker out of the freezer. Now that we have the ice maker out, we're going to take the back panel off, tailed in by 2 screws. We're going to use a Phillips screwdriver to take them out. Once you have both screws out, you can reach in and carefully pull the back panel off. To get the back panel off, we're just going to carefully pull out on it. Once you have it worked out, you can drop it down a little bit. Once you have the back panel lowered down, you can see that there's 3 electrical connections up here on the right-hand side that we have to disconnect. There's locking tabs on them, so we're just going to reach up and unlock them and unplug them. Once you have all 3 of the wire harnesses disconnected, we can pull the back panel out of the freezer. Now that we have the back panel off, we can take this metal cover off that covers the wire harness plugs. All you have to do is press in on each side to get the tabs to release. Then you can pull it off and set it aside. Once you have the cover off, we're going to cut this zip tie that holds all the wires together. Just going to use the wire cutters to cut it. Once you have it off, we're going to grab the small flathead screwdriver. We're going to follow the wires down to the defrost thermostat. It's mounted right here on the evaporator. We're just going to get in between the evaporator and the thermostat and pop it free. It's just snapped on there. Once you have it free and out, we can unplug this terminal block right here. There's 3 locking tabs that we have to press in order to get this to release. Once you have it unplugged, we have to turn the block around. This is 3 individual plugs held together by 2 little brackets. So we're going to take the small flathead screwdriver and release these brackets on this side. Once you have it released, you can pull the plug out a little bit and then pull the wires out in between the 2 brackets. Once you have it free, you can pull the defrost thermostat out of the freezer. Here's the old defrost thermostat next to the new one. If you already have one of these, great. If not, you can get it at appliancepartspros.com. They do give you a lot more wire on the new one. On some applications you might need it, but on ours it's a lot shorter. So we're just going to fold this wire over and put a zip tie around it to get rid of the excess. Once you have the zip tie tightened down, we can cut off the excess with the wire cutters. Then we can put the new defrost thermostat into the freezer. To put the new defrost thermostat in, we're just going to carefully line up the wiring so we can get it through the little slot on the locking tabs. Once you have them through, we're going to make sure that the plug is lined up. You can pull this back in and make sure the tabs lock on. Once you have it in place, you can plug the terminal block back in. It can only go one way, so just push it in there and snap it on. Once you have it in place, we're going to route the defrost thermostat down behind the wires so we can snap it onto the evaporator. It goes on the back holes of the evaporator. There's 2 sets of holes. It goes on the back one. Once you have it snapped onto the evaporator, we can put a new zip tie around all the wires and bundle them together. Once you have the zip tie tightened down, we can cut the excess off with the wire cutters. And then we can put the metal cover on. All you have to do is line it up, compress it together so it push it on and put the locking tabs on. Once you have it in place, we can put the back panel on. To put the assembly in, I'm just going to kind of lift it up into place. And then we're going to have to reach behind and grab the 3 wire harnesses and plug them in. They're all different, so you can't mix them up. Just push them on and make sure you get them in there so you get a good connection. Once you have all three connected, lift the assembly back up. Push it into place. Now, if you have to, you can pull this right slide out so this wheel gets out of the way. Once you have the wheel out of the way, you can get the panel up the rest of the way. And then we can use the Phillips screwdriver to put in the screws. Now that we have it back in place, we can put the ice maker back in. To put the ice maker assembly back into the freezer, I'm just gonna line it up so we can plug the wiring harness in. It can only go on one way. Just make sure it snaps on so you get a good connection. Once you have it in place, we're gonna lift it up so the fill tube goes up through the opening. And push it back and lock it onto the mounting legs in the back. Lock it into place. Once you have it in place, we can use the Phillips screwdriver to put in the screws on the front. Once you have both screws in, we can put the cover back on. Just have to line it up and snap it back into place. Now that we have the ice maker in, we're going to pull the rails out. And then we can put in the bar that goes between the two wheels. Just have to line it up on the right one and push it in. And do the same on the left. If you have to flex a little bit, you can. Once you have the bar back on, we can put the door on. To put the door back on, you just have to line it up on each rail and set it into place. Once you have the door in place, we can use the ratchet with the 10mm socket to put the bolts back in. Now we can do the ones on the other side. Once you have the door back on, we can put the basket in. To put the basket back in, we're going to open up the refrigerator doors to give us a little bit more room. And we're going to take the basket and lower the front down in first. Then you want to swing it and lay it down. You want to make sure that the front locking tabs go in, and then you can set the rear ones down. Now that you have the basket in, we can close the doors, and then we can put the drawer in. To put the drawer back in, you want to make sure that the slides are in the same position they were when you took them off. And then we can carefully set the drawer in. You want to make sure that the slides go onto the glides. And you can push it all the way back in. Once you have it in, you can close the freezer door, plug it back in, and make sure it starts to cool. Thanks for joining us for another successful repair brought to you by AppliancePartsPros.com. Check out our other repair videos on our site, Facebook, and YouTube.